Hi friends, it's Grace, and today it is time for my review of Blade of Dream by Daniel Abraham. This is the second book in his Kithamar trilogy, and this book comes out on July 18th, which, according to my plans, should be when you are seeing this video. So, like I mentioned, this is the second book in a trilogy. I am a huge Daniel Abraham fan, and I am going to get into my thoughts on this book. And basically, I'll start by saying that this was 4.5 stars for me. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it more than Age of Ash, the first book in the trilogy, but that is kind of classic Daniel Abraham. He might start slow, but his skill at building a series and building it up is up there with the best, and I absolutely love it. So I am going to start with the synopsis of this book, barring any major spoilers. However, you should know that I may end up alluding to things that happen in Age of Ash, but these books actually tread the same timeline. So each book in this trilogy is going to span the same time frame of about a year. We're just following different characters' perspectives, and some of them intertwine. They're not the same perspectives, but we might see the same events through a couple of people's eyes, and we kind of slowly build the story from there, and we get more information. So I don't think that there are going to be any major spoilers for Age of Ash, but if I do end up wanting to talk about something, I will warn you. So this is the Goodreads synopsis. Kithamar is a center of trade and wealth, an ancient city with a long, bloody history where countless thousands live and their stories endure. This is Gareth's. Gareth left as heir to one of Kithamar's most prominent merchant families. The path of his life was paved long before he was born. Learn the family trade, marry to secure wealthy in-laws, and inherit the business when the time is right. But to Gareth, a life chosen for him is no life at all. In one night, a chance meeting with an enigmatic stranger changes everything. He falls in love with a woman whose name he doesn't even know, and he will do anything to find her again. His search leads him down corridors and alleys that are best left unexplored, where ancient gods hide in the shadows, and every deal made has a dangerous edge. The path that Gareth chooses will change the course of not only those he loves, but the entire future of Kithamar's citizens. In Kithamar, every story matters, and the fate of the city is woven from them all. So one thing that I am just terrible for forgetting to do, but I do want to make sure I get out of the way right now, is to thank NetGalley and Orbit Books for giving me access to the electronic arc of this book. And of course, I do already have the physical copy, but that's just because on occasion, Indigo seems to send out their pre-orders just slightly early, and I'm glad they did, because I actually went into the store last week and saw them on the shelves, and I was like, well, what the heck? I pre-ordered this and I don't even have it yet, and they're just selling it in the store, not to mention that it's not out yet. But it was crisis averted, and the main thing to talk about here is how good this book was. So when you look at the synopsis on Goodreads, it really does appear that we are following the story of one character, which is Gareth. And it is true that Gareth is very much a main character of this book. However, we actually have two main characters to speak of, because the second one is Elaine SL, who is the daughter of the current Prince of Kithamar, and she is, it's interesting the way that kind of royalty works in this world, because she is royalty, but it's not exactly that they are set above everyone else necessarily until you actually come into the princehood. It's more like there are a set of nobles that are kind of relatively equal and form high society in themselves. It's more that only the prince is set above everyone else. So you have this setup of Kithamar the city, and Kithamar the city, like it mentions in the synopsis, is woven of the stories of its people, and that is kind of the important through line in this series. So there are some important discoveries that we make at the end of Age of Ash about the nature of Kithamar and what the city is that really elevate this story in Blade of Dream. So I will say that spoiler free, and then just to hop to spoilers for a quick second, which I will include timestamps for. The important thing that we learn at the end of Age of Ash is that the city of Kithamar is actually basically like a physical thread. It is this ancient godlike being that is essentially possessing someone, usually the prince of the city, at any given time and acting through them. So there is sort of this observation that some people make about how when a new prince ascends to the throne, they often start acting strangely, and how a new prince never like brings their household into the palace. It's always like the same servants, the same cooks, and like stuff like that. It's not enough evidence for people to think, like, jump to the conclusion that, oh, there's a god possessing our prince, of course. But it's strange things like that where you would think that a new person would want something different or would want to run the household their way. But in truth, it's actually been the same, like, god or soul possessing all of these rulers down the line. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to jump back to non-spoilers for Age of Ash. And basically, we have two very well-placed perspectives, in my opinion. I loved the perspective characters that he chose for this book in Gareth and Elaine. And the reason for that is because Gareth's storyline and Elaine's storyline are both those of like young people. They're about like 18 to 20 who are just trying to go about their lives in the best way that they can and to try and forge a path for themselves. But while Gareth's path takes him kind of through a break from his family, he doesn't want an arranged marriage, he wants to form a life for himself. Elaine's parallels that, but she is so much closer to the center of power in the city that her perspective feels a little bit different. It feels very well balanced because we kind of have, like with Gareth, a sense of what's happening in the city as a whole, especially because he like ends up kind of hanging out with his friends that have joined the guard, and we see what's happening out in the city. And then with Elaine, we kind of get to see what's happening inside these centers of power that the average person doesn't get to see. And then we also have this element where Gareth's and Elaine's storyline intersect. And for me personally, now I know this won't be to everyone's tastes, but Daniel Abraham just does relationships so well. So for me personally, this budding romance between Gareth and Elaine was like the cherry on top. I thought that they were so realistic, like as young people, and they have this kind of encounter for one night, and he doesn't even know who she is. She doesn't want to reveal her identity to him as one of the most important people in the city, like just in case, but they can't stop thinking about each other. And I feel like from each of their walks of life, they both taught each other something, and we go forward from there, and they kind of change each other's perspectives on life. And we follow each of them while they're kind of learning more about what goes on in the city. Elaine has her suspicions about what's going on in the palace, especially because her uncle Asai has died, and the timeline that we're following is basically when her father ascends to being prince of the city, and there are kind of some sketchy, suspicious things going on that she wants to figure out. And then we have Gareth, who kind of starts to figure out that there are powers at play in the rest of the city, and one of them is Aunt Thorne, someone who is sort of like a protective figure for the slums of the city, and one of the captains of the guard kind of has like a grudge and really wants to take out this organization. And so you have storylines happening in parallel, but the fact that this is the same timeline as the first book is really what pulls it together for me. Because in terms of pacing and plot, I think that there's a little bit of room to play with the pacing and plot. I found the pacing to be probably like medium in this. I found it to be progressing well, but Daniel Abraham always takes those moments between characters, and he is one of the best authors at that, in my opinion, where conversations and developments like quiet moments are just so stellar. And so he balances the pacing of the plot well with those character development moments, and I'm talking like friendship and familial relationships and romance, and I really, really enjoy that. And so those things just are balanced really well with the overall mystery that we're starting to lean more into. And like I mentioned in the spoiler part, which I won't actually say what it is again here, but what we learn in Age of Ash just kind of allows the reader to see the importance of all of this stuff that's going on. Like, we have some answers that the characters don't, and I really loved that about it, because I think that if I went back and read Age of Ash knowing what I know, that would kind of give some more meaning and emphasis to what happens to the characters and to what they do. But that reveal doesn't come until the end of Age of Ash, so we didn't have that throughout the book with the characters, whereas in Blade of Dream, we do have that, and I think that's why I liked it so much more. And that's not even to mention Daniel Abraham's prose and just his storytelling style, both of which I love. Like, his prose really works for me, and I think that goes to show by the fact that I read this book pretty quickly. Like, I want to say that I read almost 100 pages of it per day, because I think the book is around 400 pages. Okay, so the book is actually closer to 450 pages, and I believe I read it in 4 days, or maybe 5. So it honestly just flew by for me, just because I was loving it so much. And I know that with this being the second book in a trilogy, there is probably going to be not as much interest in watching this video, quite frankly, because it's going to be geared more towards the people who are already invested in this series and have read Age of Ash. However, if you are one of those people who has not picked up this series, I would definitely recommend it. And the thing is, I'm not telling you that if you don't like the first book, you have to continue. But if you are the type of person who, if you like certain things about a book, you're willing to put a little faith in it and continue on, Daniel Abraham is just one of those authors. That's what he's like. He loves to have the slow build. And so with the Long Price Quartet, for example, the first book was the weakest in that series for me, and he just elevates it continuously until the end. But I still liked that first book. So if you read Age of Ash and you don't enjoy it at all, then it's possible that it's not for you. However, if you read Age of Ash and you think that there are some strings tugging at you, you're interested, I would 110% recommend reading Blade of Dream. And after reading Blade of Dream, my enthusiasm for the conclusion to this trilogy has just skyrocketed through the roof, and I cannot wait to see when this book is going to be released. I'm really hoping for 2024, even if it's the end of 2024, because Age of Ash did come out in 2022, so a book every year and a half would be perfect, because honestly, I don't want to wait a super long time. I really, really want to figure out and see how this series ends. So I feel like I'm rambling at this point, so I think I will wrap up the review there. This is what I have to say about Blade of Dream, the second book in the Kithamar trilogy by Daniel Abraham, and the consensus is just that I would really personally recommend that you pick up this series if you think that it's something that you're interested in, because I love Daniel Abraham and I think that he's doing an awesome job. So that will be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. Please like if you did like it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. I've kind of strayed from my posting schedule with the busyness of my schedule lately, but I'm trying to get back on track. So I would always appreciate the subscription if you do want to see more videos from me. And with that said, as always, I'll have my Discord and socials linked in the description, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye!